Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished coach and author from India, Shital Kakkar Mehra. Shital, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Shital is a leading executive presence coach for CEOs. She has trained over 45,000 professionals. She's an author of 2 books, Business Etiquette, a guide for the Indian professional. And the second one is Executive Presence, the P.O.I.S.E Formula for Leadership. And we'll speak about both these books. She's a co-founder of an organization called Catalyst for Underprivileged Girls. She's also the founder of Go Barefoot, which is a networking platform for development professionals. What an amazing journey you've had so far, Shital. So let's start talking about executive presence coach. For my viewers and listeners, help me understand, what is executive presence?
That's a great question. Most people find it easy to spot and yet tough to define.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started my research, I would ask people what is executive presence, and they would say from anything to anything. But when I asked them name people who have it, they were very sure. Okay. So even if I expanded it to outside the corporate world, I said, can you tell me a cricketer who has it? Sachin Tendulkar would pop up. If I said, tell me a Bollywood star who has it, it would always be Amitabh Bachchan. If I said, tell me some names of global Indians who have it, it would be Indra Nui and Raghuram Rajan. So the fact is that people could spot it. They called it mysterious, X factor, it factor. Now, what exactly is executive presence? Anybody who's currently in a leadership role or aspires for one completely understands that executive presence is a critical leadership skill, which very quickly displays to others your ability to get the job done.
Okay.
Yes, it is connected to your business results. Yes, it is a lot to do with how you project yourself, but amazingly, it is a lot to do with the fact that how you are perceived as a leader. So it is a combination of skills. Now, interestingly, I felt that all the books that were available on our Indian bookshelves on the subject were written by foreign authors who had no understanding of the Indian workplace. But India has changed, evolved, grown as a country, and we have a very dynamic talent and workplaces. So I needed to research more. So yes, that is the background. Now, what exactly is executive presence? It brings us back to the same question. So yes, it is. I'll draw a parallel, which will make it easier for everybody to understand. The way I look at it is that the journey, climbing the corporate ladder is like climbing Mount Everest.
Correct.
The journey to the Everest is a 2-step process. First, you go to the base camp and then you attempt the summit. Now, the skills needed to get to the base camp are very different from the skills needed to get to the summit. To the base camp, you need to have, a certain level of fitness and a lot of motivation and desire.
Right.
Once you reach the base camp, you need very different skills. You need mountain climbing. You need rock climbing. You need experience. What are the other peaks you have attempted earlier? You also need lungs, which have the capacity to go in that rarefied air. Right. Similarly, in the corporate world, every industry has a certain base camp. For some, it is 32, for some, it's 35, for some, it is 38. But typically, it is something in the early to mid 30s.
Correct.
Once you hit that base camp, then the skill set changes drastically. The skills needed to get to the corporate base camp are definitely intellectual skills, technical skills, and a ton of hard work. But once you reach the base camp, it is a lot of executive presence and how you take the journey forward. So that's the...
Fascinating. What a great response. But then let's move to your book, which you talk about the P.O.I.S.E Formula for Leadership, which I would also imagine has a big role to play on executive presence. So tell me about the book and P.O.I.S.E.
Yes, thank you so much. It's the P.O.I.S.E Formula for Leadership. I felt that, as I said earlier, we needed to research on the Indian workplace and what is executive presence in our workplace. So I interviewed industrialists, entrepreneurs, private equity partners, venture capitalists, and of course, learning heads, HR heads, and participants. It was a 4-year journey in understanding executive presence, and each of the letters stands for one aspect of it. So if I look at it one letter at a time, I would say the first letter is P, which is your physical presence. Physicality may be the tip of the iceberg, but it matters. First impressions matter. They are a blend of verbal and non-verbal. Understanding them is critical. Clothes also create impact. Companies spend billions of dollars in packaging their products, but who are the people who are selling those products and services also matter.
Correct.
Also, body language matters. Non-verbal communication matters. We've all been trained on verbal, but what we don't understand is that a large percentage of our communication is non-verbal. So whether it is your posture, or it is your eye contact, or it is the way you carry your life's experiences and project yourself, your smile, your ability to read the body language of the people in the room, all of that matters. So that's the letter P. The O is the online presence. Now, leaders know this, that the world today is a fishbowl existence.
Correct.
And, you punch your name into Google and see what shows up. Yeah. People are going to believe it. And based on that, they'll decide to hire you, promote you, do business with you. And interestingly, research even shows marry you. So clearly, people are influenced by what they see of you online, as well as your images. So one, of course, manage your social media presence and make sure that what is your brand communicating. Secondly, if people are going to visit your profile, especially your professional profiles, and form an impression or an opinion of you based on what they see on the screen, then it is very important for you as an entrepreneur or a professional to curate your online presence and understand what is your brand communicating. And the interesting bit is that 9 out of 10 people that I work with, and these are senior leaders, their online and offline brand is not synchronized.
Correct.
Because they have not curated it. The I stands for your influencer presence, your ability to influence decision making, and your ability to understand that the role of a leader is always that of a motivator and influencer. And also, how do you influence the influencers in your organization or in the client's team? So it could be executive maturity, which I realized was a very integral aspect of our culture.
That's it. Yeah.
And how we project it. Effective listening skills, something which is a cultural gap and we need to understand. Also, the fact that taking ownership and inspiring trust is very critical. The S stands for your stage presence. For the last 10,000 years, the role of a leader has always been to communicate and motivate. So your public speaking skills, whether you are addressing 10 people on a Zoom screen, 4 people in a conference room, or 200 people in a town hall, people are always judging you and passing judgment based on you and your public speaking skills. So your vocal, visual, verbal.
Correct.
And finally, the E stands for your engagement. Your ability to make networks internally and improve your visibility. And of course, promote yourself in the right circles. And externally as well, understanding that you are a brand ambassador of your organization and your company, country, and how you project yourself. So that is the P.O.I.S.E formula in short. And yes,
amazing.
I was lucky that my research was published by HarperCollins and it has become a bestseller on Amazon.
Fantastic. Congratulations. I mean, P.O.I.S.E is an important set of 5 acronyms: physical presence, online presence, influencer presence, stage presence, and engagement presence. Wow. But Shital, coming back to the one that you spoke about online, where you said that it's important to curate an online presence. For our viewers and listeners, help me understand, how do you curate an online presence?
Okay, that's a great question and it's very relevant. I'll take it in 2 parts. One is your social media presence. Now, it's important to understand that you have to create opaque walls between your personal life and your professional life.
Correct.
You have a right to lead your personal life the way you want to. If you work for an organization, you are bound by certain rules, laws, expectations that they have of their employees, right? So it's important to understand that you have to create boundaries between your personal and professional life. If you take social media accounts today,
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram clearly emerge as the leading personal networking sites.
Mhm.
So, in case you're the kind of person who's posting things, do understand that your clients, potential clients, bosses, colleagues are constantly on the internet, and they can see what is being posted by you as well as how others are tagging you. So build awareness.
Mhm.
If you're okay with that, at least understand, because a lot of corporate careers have had hiccups as well as have had problems because of the fact that you didn't tag yourself but somebody tagged you,
Mhm.
and that did not go down well. Now if you're the kind of person who doesn't post anything and uses it only for social listening, you're safe.
Mhm.
On the other end is professional networking. Now, Twitter is used by a lot of business leaders
Mhm.
to share their thoughts, promote a cause. Yes, it's a great tool for knowledge building, for social listening. But
Mhm.
in case you want to post something, then do understand that there's a wider audience. And what are the views that you're posting? Are you posting on religion? Are you posting on politics? Are you supporting something which may not be in tune with your employer's Twitter policy? So
Correct.
I want people to build awareness, because people are going to form an opinion based on how you're sharing. On
Mhm.
the other hand, if you're an activist or an entrepreneur, you have much more liberty
Absolutely.
in posting or sharing your views.
Mhm.
So understand, first build awareness and understanding of where you stand and what you're communicating.
Mhm.
And finally, as I said, LinkedIn is a professional networking site. Now your potential clients sitting in different parts of the world will definitely put your name in LinkedIn to see your background, your capability. And we human brain is constantly thin slicing and passing judgment
True.
based on condensed sections of information. So it's
Mhm.
important to understand that. So that's one aspect.
Mhm.
Secondly, the world today has moved into a hybrid mode. We have realized that we can do a lot of business in front of
Mhm.
a screen. We don't have to physically meet each other.
Yeah.
So, how are you projecting yourself on a screen? Are you professional? So, your visual is important. Your vocal is important. Are you able to speak up and speak with authority and confidence?
Mhm.
Your verbal is important. So I think it's important to understand that as a professional, that you and your executive presence on a screen is important.
Very.
And you have to make investments in yourself. Like I have advised so many professionals
Mhm.
that get a better camera, get noise canceling headphones, get a better background, use a virtual one. And your presence on a screen is also important. So
Amazing.
you should take up, it's like movie making. You should take
Right.
up possibly 70% of the screen time, screen image, so that people can see your facial expressions
Mhm.
when they are interacting with you.
Well said. And Sheetal, as far as executive presence is concerned, what you are telling me is that uh, different aspects of executive presence can actually be taught. You're not necessarily born with as a good speaker or as a
No.
strong presence or whatever else.
Yes, that's very well caught, Ashutosh. Something, it is a skill and not a trait. A trait is something that you're born with. A skill is something which is learnable. So, yes, diagnosis is the first step of any treatment or
Mhm.
any awareness building. So, yes, understand your strengths and your weaknesses, play to your strengths,
Mhm.
and if possible, you can enhance and upgrade if development gaps. And yes, it can be learned. I always tell people you're the CEO of your own brand. If
Mhm.
you're a celebrity cricketer or a Bollywood star or a business person, you have the luxury of hiring some of the best people in the business to manage your brand and pay
Mhm.
them big money. Now if
Mhm.
you're not and you're working in an organization, you too can manage your brand. It is not just for the rich people or the successful people.
Mhm.
You are the CEO of your own brand. And three critical points. One, brands need investment. So please invest in everything that is needed to make you your best version.
Mhm.
Could be an online course, could be a small investment in a device,
Mhm.
could be anything that is needed to make you the best version of yourself and to maximize your potential.
Mhm.
Secondly, brands need visibility. So, what is your visibility and in what circles and what are you communicating? And
Mhm.
the third is brands need promotion.
Mhm.
Many times I feel people have shared with me that my work will speak for itself. I
Mhm.
always tell them that yes, your work may speak for itself, but there is so much noise around decision makers
Mhm.
that they are not able to hear what your work is saying. So you must promote yourself in the right circles.
Very, very good response. And, I was going to ask you the same question, because a lot of people have come and told me the same thing, that why do I have to talk about myself? Let my work speak for it. And I think you've given a great response. But then tell me, at what stage, and you did mention the 30s is the decade when you need to start thinking of an executive presence. At what stage of one's life does one start to understand one's own personal brand and the need to build executive presence?
The earlier, the better.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would say when you join the workplace, 20s is a great time, first of all, to do some great work.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell young professionals, whenever I'm called by a B school, or, sometimes companies call me for to address some of the larger companies when they induct young professionals as a keynote speaker. And I always tell them that 20s is a great time, first of all, to do great work. Content is king. Your ability to deliver good results and work hard and understand your business and see where you're adding value is very important. So take your career seriously. Secondly, it is a great time also to network, because if you do good work, the decision makers, the successful people, the business leaders, the super bosses in your industry will take notice of you, and they are the people who are your go-to people. Get some mentors in. That is going to help you. So the work that you do in your 20s and 30s, the network that you build, the brand that you build, the mentor support network that you build, the referrals that you build, are all going to pay you huge dividends in your 40s and 50s.
Amazing. So Shital, now let's move to your other book on business etiquette, which is a guide for the Indian professional. Tell me about some of the etiquette challenges that a lot of Indian professionals face.
Okay, the book did very well. It got translated into several regional languages, and of course is found in the libraries of Ivy League colleges. And I would say that is a book that is going to help you transition from the classroom to the cubicle. So if you're joining the workplace, that is a right book for every young professional to have. And the second book, of course, Executive Presence, is going to take you, I always say, from the cubicle to the corner office. But yes, the first book is a lot about the skills which are not taught in our schools and colleges. Now, it was interesting, but the liberalization reforms which were started in the early 90s started to bear fruit by 2000. I would say Y2K was a very critical year in the journey of an Indian professional, because Indian firms started acquiring firms overseas. So if you see the Tatas, the Mahindras, the Birlas, they bought a lot of firms overseas and improved their global footprint. Secondly, large multinational companies understood the importance of India, and they started setting up shop in India. And that meant that the Indian professional got a wonderful chance to communicate, negotiate, interact, travel, and do business with the world at large. Because that was a turning point in globalization as well. However, certain challenges remained. Now, those were cultural challenges. So how do you communicate in cross-border conversations? How do you interact with people across the world? If you look at the Indian professional of the 80s and 90s, they barely got any chance to interact with people across the world. Once in a way, our MNC boss would visit. And today, if you look at people, their inbox is full of people sitting in different parts of the world. So 20 years has been a very big shift for the Indian professional. India arrived on the world stage and started generating a lot of interest. So I would say one aspect was communication. Second aspect was sensitivity to culture. One is understanding your Indian culture, its strengths and gaps. Two, understanding your client, whether it's an internal boss because of matrix reporting in different parts of the world, or a potential client or client. Third is creating win-win situation, keeping both in mind, because today you have to interact a lot with people across the world.
Correct.
Another aspect of it was that our academic system focused too much on subjects, but did not focus on aspects of etiquette, which could be, which were like whether it is, dining, or it is entertaining, or it is dressing, or it is communication skills, business conversations, a lot of that. So I think the book would help every professional who is starting their corporate journey to read it, use it as a reference guide, and keep visiting and revisiting it, and it will help them.
Well said. Well said. Sheila, the other aspect that always comes up with business etiquette is culture. We've got so many diverse cultures within our own country, in any city, and culture is also very different across the whole world. How important is it to understand culture of the people we're going to work with in order to be able to understand business etiquette?
Yes. First of all, there's so much diversity in India.
Correct.
India should have been called United States of India. Every 100 kilometers, the food, the looks, the conversation, the language changes. So yes, that's very important. But the good news is that Indians are very good with diversity. We have lived with it for the last 10,000 years.
Correct.
But culture is very strong. Culture is 10,000 years, but globalization is equally strong and has made the world flat. Correct. So understanding of culture is very important because of the fact that it will give you an understanding of why do people behave the way they do. Also, their communication style, their negotiation style, their decision-making style. For example, in a country like the US, which a lot of Indians do business with, decision-making is faster and everybody is empowered to take decisions. So that's why when they send an email, there's possibly one person marked CC. In India, on the other hand, whenever I work with Americans, I tell them decision-making is slower. And we start at the lowest level and we work our way to the top. That's why a lot of people are marked CC. In fact, the real decision makers are in the CC box when you start the conversation. And slowly they start coming in the 2 box. And that's when you are going to reach a decision. Yes. So understanding how people communicate, how they negotiate, how they make decisions makes it so much faster. And I do believe knowledge is power.
Well said. Well said. So I've got time for one more question, and I was trying to decide what to ask you. But I think I'm going to ask you a question for all our viewers and listeners. After such an amazing conversation on executive presence and business etiquette, what would you say are 3 lessons our viewers and listeners should take away from our conversation?
One is that you are the CEO of your own brand. So do a small activity or an exercise over the weekend whenever you get time. Help yourself to a cup of chai or coffee, shut the door and sit down and ask, when I show up at work, what is my brand communicating? You may start with a long list of 20, but you can't be everything to everybody. Correct. So understand, what are you communicating? Or what do you want to communicate? Do you want to be the go-to person? Do you want to be the knowledge expert? Do you want to be professional? When I did this activity, I had 20 things listed down. Finally, I said, 1, I want to provide cutting-edge information. Secondly, I want to be a super specialist on executive presence. And thirdly, I wanted to be available and accessible to answer questions, even to people who did not attend my trainings. So those are my 3 bullet points. So first of all, understand and write down your 3 bullet points. You'll have to start with 20 and bring it down to 3. So that's 1. Secondly, it is very important to understand that you have to create win-win relationships. No culture is superior to any other culture. So work with people. People ultimately, at some level, everybody understands a smile, everybody understands polite words, and everybody is out there ready to do business. Correct. So make it easy for people, be likable, and work with the lowest common denominator so that it's easy. Thirdly, make investments in yourself and be guilt-free when it comes to making those investments, because they are going to help you achieve and maximize your success. The investment could even be higher level of self-awareness. Do you understand your triggers, internal, external? What is keeping you from achieving your best? And finally, I would like to say, we are all work in progress. Don't be very harsh on yourself. Don't be your worst critic. Be your biggest ally and supporter. And it's a long journey. Life is not a 100-meter dash. It's a marathon. So you can alter the pace, you can make changes, and you can achieve what you set out to define as success.
Wow. What a great conversation, Shital. On that note, and some amazing thoughts I loved your comment that, in India, the decision makers in the early stages are basically in the CC section of your email. I never thought of it like that, but you're so right. And Congratulations on observing something as simple as this. But thank you so much for speaking to me and talking to me about executive presence, about business etiquette. I mean, I do believe as more and more Indians are going out. I remember when I first went out in '89, out of the country, but sent by ITC. I was actually called and trained by someone who had lived in Singapore for many years to understand what our practice is, and I was all of 32 years old then. But I think these are very, very important messages you've given to our viewers and listeners. Thank you for sharing at such length about your amazing knowledge about both executive presence and business etiquette. Thank you again.
Thank you. You've been a wonderful host, and I do believe it's a wonderful time to be an Indian. And yes, our talent has been exported to all parts of the world, and we are only going to grow by leaps and bounds as a country. But yes, these are some of the skills that we can uniformly upgrade, which is going to help us reach greater heights as a nation and as professionals.
Well said. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.